Once again, from Westwood LV Solutions, we installed a fire alarm system here. What we installed was a notifier voice evacuation system. Notifier is one of the top of the line systems in the industry. Very user friendly, easy to use. Everything is addressable here, so it tells you exactly where all the devices are when they go off. You have three things on your fire alarm systems. You have your troubles, your supervisories, and your full-fledged alarms. Your troubles and supervisories does not dispatch fire trucks. They will just call who's on the list. Your fire alarms, any fire alarm, your full station, your water flow, your smoke detectors, all of those will dispatch fire department. We did install one of our DMP radios, which actually reports in seconds. So by the time you get here, shut off, trucks are coming. On your troubles, a couple of the troubles that you have is if someone pops a device off, or if we have a smoke head going dirty, or it's out of calibration. For instance, this one will say smoke detector, first floor electrical room, and the electrical room number. If you get an invalid reply, that means either the head is not seeing the head, is the addressable system's always polling and looking out for the devices constantly at light speed. So if it doesn't see that device, it'll give you a trouble saying invalid reply, it's not talking back to me. One thing about your troubles, you can sit here and hit reset all day, it will not clear. Troubles are what we call auto restore. For instance, once this battery comes into trouble, you'll see takes a couple seconds for the battery. Alright, so you see here we have trouble in system, battery. One of the things you do, first thing you always do, hit acknowledge. Acknowledge will silence the panels beeping for 24 hours. If that trouble is not fixed in 24 hours, it will start beeping again within 24 hours. Now there's a built-in timer in there. I don't know exactly what time. Sometimes it's 11 o'clock, sometimes it's 8 o'clock. It's all internal. So if there's no trouble that's been fixed in 24 hours, then it's going to start beeping in, hey guys, you still have a trouble in your system, get your service crew out here. And like I said, you can hit reset all you want, it will not, that trouble will come back. Once you fix the trouble, it'll auto restore and go back to normal. On your supervisories, as you see there, it just went back to normal. Your supervisories that you have here. Supervisories, we have two types of supervisories, what we call non-latching or track supervisory or latching. Your latching supervisories we have here, you have smoke detectors or what we call duct detectors on your air handler units. If any of those go off, it's gonna, why we have it latching is because it's gonna shut that unit down. When it sees any dust or particles passing through these detectors are what we call photoelectric detectors. So it looks for particles passing through a light. When it sees too much particles passing through a light, it activates the detector. So if the duct detector comes into supervisory, you'll get an active latch supervisory. It'll say duct P, and it'll tell you air handler 1, 2, but like on some of the duct detectors, we have them in the tenant space on third floor, so we have the description, so you guys know exactly where they're at. Those, once particles clear out, you can come, you hit acknowledge, and then you can hit a reset. If the particles clear through that, and that duct detector goes clear, then the panel will go normal, and within about 30 seconds, your air handler will turn back on. Okay? Now, on your non-latching supervisories are your tamper switches where they shut the water off of the sprinkler system, your main water valve outside for the backflow. Those are what we call non-latching or track supervisories. Typically that will come in if your sprinkler guy's working on the system, he shuts the water off and panel will automatically track supervisory. That's something you don't have to reset. That will typically means you have a water, it's to protect you guys to know, hey, someone shut the water off to the building. If it says backflow, they'll say your risers, and once again, everything description wise will tell you exactly where it is. Most of your tamper and flows, and the sprinkler guy, when he goes through the training, will show you where all your stuff is. But most of them, you have a set in your riser room here and up the stairwells, and then you got some that's in the men's locker room and stuff like that. Now, your full-fledged alarms. You got your pull stations, your smoke detectors, your water flows. Now, smoke detector goes off, trucks are coming, you're not allowed to silence. Once fire department gets here, they'll come in, they'll check it out, because if you silence and they get here, they could find you. So that's one of the things to be careful. Even though you might know it's a false alarm, maybe a kid pulled a pull station or something like that. You know, you just gotta be careful with silencing. And I will do a live test with you guys here shortly. Pull stations, smoke detectors, water flows. Now your water flows are what we call non-silenceable. So once the water flow flows, you can hit here and hit signal silence. The water flow is not going to silence. By code, they don't want it to be silenced. I don't agree with it, because if you're in a full-fledged fire here, or they're running and they're trying to shut stuff off, but that's how this jurisdiction works. So basically, once they fill the water back up and their switch clears, then basically you just hit acknowledge, system reset. Once if that water flow is clear, then you're good to go. Pull stations, I want to show you guys how to activate. Actually, let me just go. You have the pull stations right here. Okay. As you see here, this says 1M17 on it. It's fully addressable. I'll show you guys how the description. So when you want to activate, you push in, you pull down. And now your fire alarm's going off. Now, what you can do, and I'll walk back over there, but before you can reset that, once you see it's a pull station, you need to come here, open the door, close it. That's how you reset this pull station. So see, you pulled it back up, so then now you can walk back in here.
Is EMS getting activated right now?
Have your attention, please.
We're on test.
A fire has been reported in the building. A fire has been reported in the building.
So, now, first thing you always do, you hit acknowledge, okay? Always the first thing you do. And you want to silence, you hit signal silence. As you see, that's silence. The water flow will not. And then, as you see how I reset that pull station there, now that's reset. So it says pull station, first floor service circular. That's the zone. See right there, that's the address. 1M17. Exactly what I showed you guys on that pull station. Then you hit reset, it goes through, it initializes the entire system. And once again, you just hit acknowledge. So now it's going through its system initialize, so it's going out, making sure it's seeing everybody that's out there. And then it's going to go normal. And basically, that's all 3 buttons that you guys have to use on this.
Well, what was the issue this past weekend where the pull station and the family pool kept activating, even after it was clear? It kept going off every 2 to 3 hours.
I think because I'd have to give my technician on it, because I was out that day when he came up for the service call. So I'd have to go back and look at his service ticket. I don't know if it got wet or if something was
Yeah, it could have.
But it's weatherproof pull stations we put out there. I just hope it's not getting affected by chlorine. Everything in there is plastic. For the weatherproof stuff, everything on that is plastic, so it should not be getting affected by any chlorine or anything.
Yeah, there was a group in there pressure washing the pool decks and some of the walls, and I think it may have hit it, but it just kept going off. So we asked I got called by the dispatcher multiple times.
Okay.
And we asked them to put that pull station, just that one, in test mode.
Okay.
Which they did. And
Yeah.
it got addressed.
Hey, it reports by point, so yeah, you
Yeah.
could put it that zone or that point on test.
Right.
But other than that, maybe I'll find out. I don't think there's a password or anything on the account. Now this is our office number on the bottom there. if there's an alarm after that 24 hours, the batteries are supposed to withhold for 15 minutes. And we did actually do live battery testing with the fire hose. So the batteries are typically good 3 to 5 years. Once they start getting low, the panels will tell you. Like on the power supply here, all right, so this is your power supply here for your strobe circuit, okay? So if you get a battery trouble, that battery light will come on.
Okay.
If you get a ground fault, maybe a wire's nicked or something happened or maybe something got wet and this ground fault light will come on. If you have an AC fail, that will come on. Or if the charger's acting up, that will come on. And this NAC trouble, it'll blink. If it blinks once, that means NAC 1 is in trouble. If it blinks twice, NAC 2, and so on, 3, 4. It'll blink how many times that device is in trouble, or what circuit is in trouble. On this, for the voice, it'll tell you your speaker circuit. That will go yellow, and 1 through whatever, that speaker circuit. So if there's a trouble on any of your speaker circuits, I think you have 12 or 13, maybe 16 on here. Something like 16 circuits on your speakers. Yeah, and your system is what we call A class out here also. This entire system's A class. It's for redundancy. What it does, it goes out, hits every device, and comes back home. So if a device in the middle so happens to be pulled out or goes bad, everything around that device still works. The same thing on the addressables. If a device is pulled down in the middle, you know, everything around it will still work, because in B class you just hit everything and then you have an N. So if anything before that N goes down, then you're losing everything after that. But this system is an A class system, so there's no losing anything. You're only going to lose one thing if something happens. Close it up, so I'll find out the grass looks like something.
Yeah, they were here yesterday, and what was lacking in there was that key, and then what they call the barrel key to the elevator.
Oh, to reset the elevator?
Yeah,
All right,
so they could get into the elevator.
What else?
Later on today, we'll go over the lighting controls with you, show you where all the keypads are, show you how the scenes work and whatnot. But I'm gonna go over the main electrical room, show you where, then we'll walk through. I'll show you each section where the panels are at. That way there's no confusion of each, because we got 4 different areas on the first floor. We got 2 electrical rooms on the second floor, and then 2 more on the third floor. So, but to make this short, this is your main distribution panel. So everything comes through this breaker. All right. So in case of a fire or whatnot, if the fire department, this is where they come down and turn down that unit. All right. Once this goes down, the UPS on the second floor kicks in. But when we get up there, we'll show you where the UPS system's at, so you can make sure it's operating. Everything in this section right here is 3-phase 277, 480. Everyth's labeled. This will let you know the difference between 480 and 120. We label everything, that way you know what you're dealing with. The voltage is the pressure that pushes the electric. So anything with high voltage on it, it's got more pressure on it. This section here, this feeds everything in the building that's high voltage. So these are your panels, and these are your panels throughout the building. And when you get the one-liner on the computer, you'll see how everything's distributed throughout the building through the one-liner. Everything on here is this is high voltage, piece of rooftop. These transformers over here, for instance, you got T2 here. P2 feeds T2 transformer, which feeds LDP right here. Now, this panel here feeds all your second floor low voltage panels. So everything on the second floor that's low voltage it feeds up to LDP2. All right. Now, this one here, T1, that feeds this transformer, which feeds this panel. This panel here feeds all your first floor low voltage panels. Everything's labeled. These are all the panels that it feeds on the first floor. And I'll walk you through and show you the panels that it feeds.
T1, where's it labeled?
Right.
Oh, it's labeled.
This panel over here feeds, this feeds all your AC VABs. So anything having to do with the ACs on the first floor that's coming out of here. That's your VABs, air handlers, any of that stuff. This is your outside lighting panel. It only feeds a couple circuits outside. All these panels here, when you see any of these panels that have these boxes on the bottom, this is where these panels are all lighting control panels. So anytime you see a panel with them bottom things on there, that means that's your lighting control.
I can explain a little bit about this while we're in here. So basically, this is a processor, and this will get all the commands from the switch stations around the first floor or whatever load is associated on the panel. When you open this, you have a breaker relay. It's a combo cycle breaker. And what it has here is it's got two throw handles here. One is shutting power off completely from the energized bus bar within this panel. The second throw is a manual on for the lighting command. So this processor tells this little relay right here to turn on and off as long as the breaker is energized. So when you go to a switch station and it talks to the processor and tells circuit number 1 to turn the lights on and off, this will toggle automatically. So all that function is done right here at the panel. So if there's ever a circuit that is not functioning off of the switch station, you could come to the panel, you could read the schedule here, find the area that it has lost lighting, and then you could check to see if the relay is in the on state. You'll know it's in the on state by this little red line here. If the red line is visible and the toggle is to the left, then it's either in command from the processor or it's in override. Once the processor recognizes the breaker, it can override the override. So basically it'll toggle it off depending on the command from the switch station, or it'll toggle it back to the left. So left is basically manual on, or it's being commanded by the processor. So left side is always in the on position.
What would cause the relays to kick off in the off position?
It could be some of the lighting has detectors, so motion detection, and if the motion detector isn't sensing and it is timed out, it'll automatically turn off. And so when somebody occupies the room and walks in, it'll go ahead and flip to the on position manually. Or same function with the switch station. You can override the sensor in the ceiling with the switch station in that room, and that it'll toggle automatically. For it to go into off position by itself, it's not typically something that will happen. If you have a fault in the circuit, it will trip the main panel here, just like any standard breaker.
Do these breakers also control the electrical outlets in those areas that are marked here?
There are, I think, 3 areas within the building that have outlets that are controlled by occupancy sensors on the
So
ceiling.
my question is, this weekend, we were trying to install our computers in the front desk.
They were just off.
Right, so,
Yeah.
and I came in here looking for where those breakers might be.
And that's what we'll go, and I'm gonna show you the.
So those are
different-
separate breakers? than-
Yeah, I'll show you the different areas, because each area in the building has its own little panel.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and so basically, the loads for those outlets are distributed from other panels, not the lighting control panels, but the processing for the sensor does go through our lighting control processor. So you'll have to read the schedule on anything that's not an LP. So LP stands for lighting panel, and you have 1A, and 1 stands for first floor, and then A is just a symbol of how many are in the chain there. So you got A, B, and C. And so on the first floor, you have 4 lighting control panels. You have 3 here, and then you have a 4th one over by conference, and we'll visit that one.
Yeah, we'll walk through, and I'll show you the panels, where they're at, and show you what areas that it controls.
Okay. There's 5 people in it?
Oh, we'll hand you out the square feet. Yeah. Yeah, everything in here is little equipment room control for these 2 panels. This panel's fed 3PM1 main electrical room. This one's fed from that big panel that we opened up and had all the. Yep. All right, we'll go into the next area. These 2 panels here. Everything that comes out of this panel, RP1F, this controls all your tape lights. So any tape lights within the building, like in the locker rooms and like in the corridor.
Oh, okay, those.
Yeah, and
Okay.
all the tape lights,
Yeah.
what else comes out of the mirrors? I think the mirrors come out of here also.
Yeah, you got the lights in that hallway
Yeah,
that are
yeah.
along the millwork, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so any tape lights coming out of this panel. and
There's
this-
also a couple hand dryers that come out of this
Yeah.
as well.
And then this panel's the panel you were looking for the other day. Anything generally within that area,
Yeah.
like this area here will feed the
All
lobby.
right, can you open that?
Yeah. I got so many keys in here.
All right, so everything's marked.
Yeah, but keep in mind, when you look at the panel schedule, and if you're maintenance or whatever, whoever your maintenance guy is, once we send the PDF to the as-builds, they need to look at them circuits accordingly. It's not gonna be like front count or whatnot, he's gonna have to look at the print and make sure that he's looking at the right circuit.
All right, so in theory,
Yeah.
show me outlets.
See,
Receptacle?
it'd be entrance, lounge receptacle, and then it goes room, so this goes back to the print also.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier you could look at this, but this will match you up to the print.
Okay. And of course, you guys had it shut off because you were trying to replace
Yeah,
some of the
yeah,
receptacles,
yeah.
right? All right.
So this panel right here also does the floor boxes for the conference room, the floor boxes for the entrance lobby in
Lobby,
there.
okay.
So that's all those circuits that go down through the floor.
All right.
This panel also is got a processor associated with it. So basically, all the processors for the whole building are on a network together. There's a head-end processor that's in the data room, and anytime programming needs to happen, that can happen at the head end. and it will send all that information through the network to the associated processor. So you don't have to literally come to every single one to dump a program in there or reconfigure something. You can do it from the head end.
Okay.
Now, do you want to show them before you want to go through the electrical rooms, or you want to
Have
go?
one at the entry, which does both rooms. Then you have this one here on the left that does just this room. And then you have a LCE switch station over there, which does both rooms. And then it will do just one room here. That's the one over there by the door on the left-hand side.
Okay.
So there's a sensor that is above this curtain here, and I don't know if that works, but what happens is when this curtain closes, there's a laser beam that is interrupted, and that sends a signal to the processor telling the processor that the room has been divided, and the functionality of the switch will only do one half or the other. That way, if you're over here having a conference or a meeting, you can't control the other side if there's something else going on over here.
Somebody was asking me about that, right?
Yeah, so that sensor there will give that command to
So
show
we can
one
treat
side or
it
the
as
other.
two different
Yeah.
conference rooms.
Right, yep.
From a lighting standpoint.
Yep, so I can step over here and show you the LCD and the functionality of that. So it'll be at a black screen when you first walk up to it until you push the home screen there. And then you'll go to next. And this will basically give you a fader here, which it's labeled down lights or cove lights. The cove lights are the ones that are up in the soffit, and the down lights are the can lights. So this will go high, dim, very dim. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then low, on, off. So we can push low here, and this should toggle, hopefully. Okay, so we've got one side off. The reason why one side is off is because we're in conference room 1. So if you go to next, you go to conference room 2, and you can turn the lights off in conference room 2.
Okay.
Now, if you notice, there's a couple lights that have a delay on them when they shut off. Those lights are on the emergency backup. And the reason why they have a delay is because there is a relay up there that basically toggles the emergency lighting on and off separately from the normal circuit. So that delay is programmed into the relay to be that way. So that's typically a code thing. The relay you can take the delay off the relay, but the relay has to be exposed for the inspector to see it. It has to be visible. So these relays are within the ceiling and they're concealed. So it has to have the relay on it. So you'll see that throughout the building. When you go into certain rooms, you'll click the lighting off. You'll have the regular lighting go off immediately, and then about 2 seconds later, the emergencies will shut off behind that. So if you want to turn them back on, just hit your on button. If you want to go back to the other room and turn those back on, you just hit the on button, and they restored light. And so basically the wall stations on the other side are the exact same thing. You'll have 4 buttons or 5 buttons, and each one will have high, dim, very dim, low, on and off, and they're in that same format from high.
But this
to,
isn't touchscreen here where you move it up and down?
yeah, and then on this one here, you can manually dim and change the brightness of the lights with the fader.
I didn't see it change. Was there a delay?
So one is that far room over there, and we can do cove.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
cove is down, and then down lights
Okay.
are down.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
handy. Yeah.
Yep. So also, if you go all the way to full dim, it will go to 0. It will go off. So if you want it at a certain percentage, you just have to be careful how far you go with that. and that's standard. So basically, all of the LCDs throughout the building are this same exact format. The only one that's a little different is the one in the yoga room, and that has a RGBW color wheel on it. So basically, there's the colors of the rainbow with
Like the
that
one on
one.
the ceiling?
Yeah, and we'll get to that one when we walk back past that, and I'll show you how that color fader works.
Okay.
So, did you want to go to another?
Yeah, I'm
panel?
gonna show them all the electrical. So you got another panel right in here, and this is your other low voltage panel. It feeds everything in this general area. I'm just gonna give you all general locations, but that way you all know that there are more than one panel.
This one's in the rock climbing.
It's still in the process of being programmed, and what this controller will do, it will do your main lobby lighting, and then it'll do certain loads on third floor, second floor, and the first floor. And all of those lighting loads can be adjusted. You can basically take something out of the program and put something back in. If you don't want an area to be controlled by that master controller, we can take it out and we can put something else in. So I think there's eight different functions that it'll do, and right now we just have like the main common area loads coming out of that. So room here, there's just one station for the locker rooms, and basically you have a function here for the can lighting is on zone 1, then you have zone 2, which is the lights that are actually around the corner above the showers. You have zone 3 here, which are the little soffit lights here above the mirrors, and then zone 4 is the locker tape lights. So you should be able to push off if all loads are turned off, and that button will do on and off. It just says off, but you can push that again if everything's off, and everything will come on at once.
And the arrows?
So there's only one dimmable load in here, which is the can lighting. So the can lighting is on zone 1, so we'll check that, make sure that's 1, so we'll turn that back on. If you want to dim the cans, you hold zone 1, it'll blink, and then you can ramp down that load, and it takes a second for
There they go.
the signal to get to the processor, so you gotta be patient with it, and then you can ramp that back up. And then you can turn that off, and then it'll be set where you want it. It does store the amount of dim that is in there. So if you put it down to 50% and you turn zone 1 off, and then turn it back on, it'll still be at 50%. It won't reset back to 100 unless you manually do it. So, and then that's it for the locker rooms.
This will feed all the low voltage in the locker room area here.
Is this control for both locker rooms, or you got one like this in each locker room?
No, this is the only one.
Okay.
This will also do the floor boxes in the massage
Massage
room.
area.
Say that again, the floor?
Yeah, there's
Floor
floor
boxes.
boxes right there in the middle of the floor.
Got it, yeah,
Yeah,
right,
so that
Okay.
load comes out of here.
all right.
And then this thing here, this is your sauna. So there's a timer in here, right? This timer could be programmed, but for the sauna, that controls your sauna here.
What the,
This control box.
how do you turn it on?
With that,
How do you?
there's a timer.
Oh, in there, okay, got it, okay.
It's on a timer, so it turns on. I think they're trying to program it to turn on at a certain time.
Is this the timer here?
No, the timer will be, the timer's, it's inside.
Yeah, the whole floor here, and it's right here on this column. So basically, this has on-off functionality only.
Yeah.
So when you come up here, you're not going to have dimming functionality or any zone functionality. It's either all on or all off. The lights that you see that are still on, those are emergency lights, so those will stay on. There's also an LCD on the check-in desk, and that LCD will be kind of like the master controller for the floor, and that'll operate the 2 exercise rooms, the spin room, and the main floor here. That LCD is in the process of being reconfigured as well, so I can't really show you the functionality of that, but it's going to be the same as the conference room, where everything will be labeled and it'll have toggle on, toggle off, and there's not a whole lot of loads that'll be on there that'll be dimmable, so it'll just be on-off functionality.
No lights, Tim? Oh, there we go. These 2 panels here control all the exercise equipment out here. All right, one of these panels control one. It's kind of broke up like this. As you move across the exercise area, these two panels control a certain section, and then when we're at the other electrical room, we'll show you that it controls the other section. But once you go to our as-built, you'll see how it's broken up with panels being labeled or not. And as you can see, this is the IDF room / column room.
Scene station. We've got up to 4 scenes, and this is similar to the other ones where we've pre-programmed them to just do certain levels of dimming. So for scene 1, it's full bright. Scene 2, we'll do a level of dimming. Scene 3, we'll go a little bit dimmer, and scene 4, we'll do its lowest dim setting. Then you can push off. All go off except for the emergencies. Now those emergencies are on the UPS backup, so once the building, if it loses power, those lights will stay on in the event of emergency. So then you can go back to scene 1, and it'll go full bright. And that's going to be the same in the other exercise room. be some integration with the audio to the lighting. I'm not sure exactly what that functionality will be just yet, but from what I'm hearing that they're going to be able to integrate. So we'll find out more about that as that comes down the line.
Okay, wow.
All right, this is your UPS. This is your inverter. This is your lighting backup. So
Emergency lights?
Yep. So when you lose power, this is what's going to feed emergency lighting for everybody to get out of the building. All right. This thing has a running time, I think, of what, 3 hours?
Yeah.
3 hours it'll run. So if you lose power to the building, let's say OUC or whatever, you lose power, it will get everybody out of the building and whatnot. So this is fed from the main. So this will be for your maintenance guy if he's working on lights or whatever. Remember, the EM lights go into the in the same strip like these lights out here. So I'm just saying, like, for general purpose, if the maintenance guy's doing maintenance on any of these lights, he needs to make sure he turns off the circuit with the EM circuit. Because almost every light in here is, not every light, but a lot of the strip lights out here are fed through, they got EM circuits in them. So this panel right here, this is for your future build outs. So that's for future tenant build outs.
Okay. We have any space right now.
Yes. And then this is your actual EL panel. So all the circuits that are fed through this come in here. So this is your emergency circuit panel. This panel here is your LPG. This feeds all the other panels in the building. Well, 1, 2, and 3. All your low voltage. All labeled here. So these are all the panels that it feeds on the second and third floor. Pretty much, well, this panel feeds the office areas here, and then your office areas over on the behind the elevators.
Yeah.
This panel feeds a lot of most of the equipment that's to the left side is coming out of this panel. All right, that's just the way they got it broke up. This panel here, EPH1, it feeds all your VAVs on the second floor. So all your AC, all your VAVs and AC related stuff, this is where it comes from, the second floor. And then this panel right here is your lighting control panel. This is feeding all your second floor lighting.
What about your controls for the gymnasium?
Gymnasium?
Yeah.
Gym comes out of the third floor for lighting.
Yeah.
Is that which one?
Third floor.
Third floor, okay.
Right, but this feeds all your second floor.
Okay.
We can step into this office here to show you the functionality of
That's fire alarm.
Okay.
So you have no excuses about how to operate your light after doing that.
Well, as you come into this, obviously you just have an on-off function switch to enter the room. These lights will time out with the motion sensor that you see at the far end, and you have one above your head. So if somebody comes in, it will trip the lights on automatically. If you want to shut them off manually, you can shut them off here. You've got a time delay, that's an emergency light right there, that's got the delay. Also, the two lights that are at the window have a sensor for daylight. So if the glass is not tinted and it's picking up excessive sunlight, those two lights will automatically dim. And that's throughout the building. There's several lights that are near windows that are associated with a light sensor, and those lights will automatically dim for energy savings. In the offices, you basically have just on, off, and dim function. So you can manually turn the lights off, manually turn them on, and then you can manually dim. The reason that they dim in different shades at the moment is because every office has a light sensor. So it's going through a different processor to do the dimming function. So it's thinking, it's getting there. It just takes a little time. When you walk into the offices, there are certain outlets throughout the room that are associated with the occupancy sensor. So when you walk in, that sensor will pick up motion and it'll release power to the outlets that say control. So every office has at least 2 outlets that are on just general purpose walls. They're not associated with the computer desks and stuff like that. So if nobody's in this room and the lights shut off and the sensor doesn't pick up motion, those outlets will no longer have power, and that's energy management code. So that'll be pretty much in all of the offices in this back area. Okay, so you gotta be real careful what you plug in there. You don't want to plug in a refrigerator and things of that nature.
Got it.
All right, Jay, that means I have to plug my fridge in over here.
Yeah, right.
So this wall also has sensor controlled outlets, and they are also marked. So when they go to plug in their equipment here, they're going to need to make sure that they're not plugging into one of the outlets that are on the sensor, because then they'll lose that power once the room is not occupied.
I'd probably capped all of those so they didn't use them.
And that's pretty much it for these rooms. This main room does dim, and it's a manual dimmer, and it'll save the dimming. So whatever you set it at, it'll stay there until you ramp it.
It feeds all your 34 VAPs and ACs. This is your low voltage panel, so it's feeding all your offices and receptacles on this section of the building.
It's funny to see a bottle of water over the electrical like that.
What's that? Oh yeah.
For as far as the lighting goes for this area, this space, these corridors are on the occupancy sensor above the gentleman's head here. And so if the lights are timed out, I think it's got like a 15-minute delay on there. So it'll basically stay on when it senses motion, and then if there's no motion after 15 minutes, it'll go ahead and shut itself off. The offices or these spaces back here are basically the same as the other ones that we walked already. And the only difference is these are on-off only. And it has a emergency light in each one. The corridor is on emergency, so in the event of a power failure, the whole corridor will stay lit. Since these are treatment rooms and not offices, code does not require these outlets to have the motion sensor controlled outlets. And so all of these outlets are just always on.
Yeah. So
There should be another set of panels on this other side by the elevator. And we'll let Joel explain that. And then this room right here, its switch station is here. And basically it's got dimming. And it's got on-off function. So these two by the doors are the emergencies. So you have 2 zones here. One zone will do the far right, that's zone 1. Zone 2 does the far left. And again, this switch station, it will save the dim setting that it's at. So if you come in here and you push these on and they're at full dim, you just have to ramp that up manually, and then it'll save that for when you turn the lights on and off. That's it.
In the event that the elevator is shut down through the fire alarm, then up there you're gonna have to reset. There's 2 disconnects up there. Them 2 have to be reset in order for the elevator to come back on. That's where the elevators are shunted at. So in case, you know, fire alarm goes off, it's gonna shunt them. All right. So once they're shunted, the breaker will have to be reset.
Why is it up there?
Just part of the system when they changed the room through the inspection. What happened was the way we installed it, it didn't meet elevator code, so they made us build this room over here.
So
Just-
in other words, we always have to keep a ladder handy.
Yeah, just you know, not really. It's not. I don't think it's nothing that's gonna come. I'm just giving you the information. If it does happen, then you go to hit that disconnect and you don't get power. That there are 2 disconnects up there, and I'll put a label there so we know exactly where they're at.
Perfect.
There's a radio.
And then our last 2 panels are right here.
You can always leave it out of there.
So there's panels in there?
Right behind the
Did I miss? Oh, I'm like, did I miss something?
Yeah. So you have one lighting control panel up here, and this is the 3rd floor control. So the basketball court does come out of this panel here, and this is the same as all the others, where you have your relay and your on-off toggle there with the circuit. So there's not a whole lot that comes out of this right now. There is lots of room in this panel for expansion. I would say that this has at least 50% still left in it, so it's quite a bit. So if any of the tenants that occupy the non-built out space want lighting on the lighting control system, that is possible.
Okay.